Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of On Cue. And as always, we're coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the SR 1029 FM The Game studios. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. We got about an hour to play with, a little rapid fire on what has turned out to be several busy days, not only in the NFL, but the world of sports. As always, get in on the conversation. It is a Woosah Wednesday. Don't forget, you can check us out online. Follow me on social media at Rich Q on Q, on X, on IG, and TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. We're on Rumble, Kicks, Millions as well, and download the AUDACY app to get in on the conversation. Hope everyone had a good Sports Tuesday. You're enjoying your 11th of March 2026. A lot to get into today. You've got the nonsense that was 83 points in an NBA frigging game last night, which we'll get into. You've got the nonsense that is the Max Crosby physical, which we kind of knew was going to be a potential stumbling block in a trade from Las Vegas to Baltimore. And the Colts and the Jets have no idea what the hell they're doing. They have absolutely no idea what the hell they're doing. But I wanted to, like I said, there's a couple. I want to start. I guess we'll go with the NBA to start things off, and we will get into a lot of the NFL. But as far as the NBA last night, Adebayo with his 83 fraudulent points, and like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's not a good player. He's a nice player. He's a good player. But everything that is wrong with the NBA, you saw last night in that game. And I know, there's going to be the schools of thought where, don't rain on this guy's parade. Hey, listen, 83 points, passes Kobe, not going to touch Wilt. Fine, in a blowout win for Miami over the Wizards. But let's just be transparent here. Can we? Can we just be fair when we're talking about a debacle that was last night? It's, when we talk about the NBA, I feel as though people get so bent out of shape, and rightfully so. But you'll get the masses talking about, in a game where a late bucket as time expires when the game's pretty much over. That's disrespectful. But then you have a situation last night where the Miami Heat are up by 27 points. And they're trying to just manufacture possession after possession by fouling. And they're trying to create another 15 something points for a player so he can surpass Kobe, so he can hit 83. You're talking about a player that's jacking up threes all over the place. I mean, his a brand of basketball. It really was. It really was. How can you sit there and say 83 points was spectacular when you take over 40 free throws and you take over 40 friggin' shots? And let's just keep fouling Washington as soon as the ball's in bounds so we can go out and manufacture a couple more possessions for this guy. Like, that is the problem with the NBA. It was a friggin' disgrace. It was. It was a disgrace. And, what Eric Spoelstra did, I mean, come on. You're talking about a player that shot 43 times, less than 50% from the floor. You shot 43 free throws, and you go 7 of 22 from beyond the arc against a horrible piss poor team, and you're in the game the last 3 minutes, and you're fouling Wizards players so you can get to 83? I mean, is that exactly where we're at right now in the NBA? Is that how it should be? Because that's not how it should be. That was an absolutely disgraceful performance last night by both teams. And this is not, I'm not knocking on the player himself. I'm not knocking on Bam. Good for him. But just, let's put a little context to it. Let's put a little context to it. How many shots did he chuck up? How many shots? And I got to be quite honest with you, because Miami kept fouling the Wizards to get the ball back so we can break the record. I'm sorry. 83, nah, 81. Sorry, that's Kobe. That's Kobe. So you go back, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's career highs for free throws in an attempt in a regular season game were 27. And how many did Bam have last night? Did you check the friggin' box score? That was that was a glorified Saturday afternoon at the PAL or the YMCA. That's what that was. That's exactly what that was. 36 of 43 from the charity stripe, 20 of 43 from the floor, 7 of 22 from beyond the arc. And we're supposed to sit here and celebrate 83 points against a 16 and 48 team that, again, your own team was fouling them so you can get more possessions and manufacture more points. What a disgrace. What an absolute disgrace. I don't know how anyone can sit there and celebrate that nonsense last night, because there's nothing to celebrate. There's literally nothing to celebrate last night. Nothing at all. I don't know how anyone can sit there and say, oh man, this is unbelievable. This is great. This is exactly how it should be. No, no, and no. It's not how it should be. Disgraceful. Let's just keep fouling the Wizards to get the ball back. I mean, you think, you got Wilt and Kobe, God rest their soul. You don't think they're rolling over right now? You think Pat Riley was happy with that nonsense last night? An old school guy like Pat Riley? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That was embarrassing last night. And like I said, I'm not going to tell you that, I'm not faulting the player. I mean, to some extent, but you got an opportunity to break the record, you're certainly going to go for it. But how it was done, it was not the way I look at it. It was not professional. It wasn't clean. It wasn't classy. And it was a disgrace. And it was weak. It really was. It was weak. Let's just keep fouling, right? Let's just keep fouling. That's embarrassing. And the Heat should be ashamed. And Washington too, because they decided, you know what? Ole, this is fun for... come on, man. Just really bad. Really, really bad. It was a weak look. It really was. It was a weak look. And people that are sitting there, they are celebrating it. Get your head out of your ass, will you? Let's just keep fouling this guy so he can go to the line. 83 points, great. Let's just keep jacking up threes against a horrible team. Yeah, this is great. This is wonderful basketball down the stretch. I mean, I don't want to hear about the Heat culture and the professionalism and all that crap again. I mean, that was basically clout chasing. That was chasing a record. That's all that was. That was padding a stat, right? You get me 35, a clean 35, a clean 41. I can appreciate that. Hell, Dana Barra scoring 55. I can appreciate that. Bam last night, 83, shooting it thousands of times. No, I can't appreciate that. And that was a disgrace what Eric Spoelstra did. Let's shoot 43 friggin' times, less than 50%. And let's also go to the charity stripe. Let's shoot 43 friggin' free throws and go 7 of 22 from beyond the arc. And we're going to celebrate that crap. Only goofballs are celebrating that nonsense today. Only goofballs that got their head up their ass. This is the problem with the NBA. This is why the product stinks. That's why the product stinks in the NBA. All right, so we got the Bam nonsense in the NBA. And then you got the Colts and the Jets. And I have no idea what the hell these teams are doing. And you had to blow up in the face with the Baltimore Ravens having to walk back the Crosby deal and pivot. I was getting ready. Here we go. Baltimore, stick them in the AFC Championship. Look at the odds. They're going to make some noise. And Max Crosby doesn't, they weren't comfortable. They weren't comfortable with the physical. They weren't comfortable with the physical. Now, have we not been here before with the Baltimore Ravens in the past? Have we not been here before? So what happens? They got to pivot and they go to Trey Hendrickson, 4 years, 112. But what Baltimore is doing now, the reputation, I mean, think about it. It's nixing the trade itself, right? After the physical, I believe that the Baltimore Ravens just got cold feet. That's what I believe. I believe they just got cold feet. I mean, they turned around. The Raiders actually announced it that Baltimore backed out. So that trade that would have sent all-pro defensive end Max Crosby to Baltimore in exchange for 2 first-round draft picks. No longer. No longer. I mean, that's a wild day in the NFL. I mean, a wild day, a wild night in the NBA, and a wild day in the NFL. So that's a bad look by the Baltimore Ravens. Look, you get cold feet, you get cold feet. That happens. That happens. But I think now what we're seeing, listen, a lot of blame's got to go in the process and the work. I mean, it's kind of weird, right? It's kind of a goofy way the NFL does free agency. Like, no deal ultimately should ever be announced until physicals are done and everything's signed. So now you got the Raiders unable to pay Max Crosby because they brought in new players. Crosby now is potentially looking for a new home. And now you got other teams that actually might balk at wanting to deal with the Baltimore Ravens going forward. So the Ravens have lost 9 guys, and they had to rework the deal with Lamar, and they don't have Crosby, but they have Hendrickson. And it's not the first time the Baltimore Ravens have balked, have backed out on a trade. It's not. We've seen this before. We've seen this before from the Ravens. I mean, this is not, like I said, this is not new news. But what I think is going to happen now, there's going to be a bit of reservation from those agents and players that maybe potentially want to deal with the Baltimore Ravens. And they're losing player after player. I mean, my goodness. Likely, Lindenbaum, Stout, Mitchell, Jones, Gilman, Washington. The fullback, right, goes to the, I mean, it's like the New York Ravens, the Baltimore Giants. Rough day. Losing players left and right. So you got Crosby, who's 8 weeks from having the surgery, got off the crutches last week, scheduled, right, and boom, trying to get him ready, and here we go. Let's just have a little cold feet and walk it back. And now let's pivot. So you got the debacle that is the Baltimore Ravens, and then you got the New York Jets. Then you got the New York Jets, and I have no idea what the hell the New York Jets are doing right now. I really don't. I have absolutely no idea why in the world the Jets would want to go back and revisit the Geno Smith era, the nonsense. I mean, is it like, are we that far gone when we're talking about the quarterback position in the NFL, where the Jets have to literally turn around and trade a bag of balls for Geno Smith? And now you have Aaron Glenn basically almost insinuating that Geno is going to be day one starter, which I think is a mistake. You're not even going to bring in someone to press him, to push him, to compete with him. It's like exactly what the Giants did with Russell Wilson, naming him opening day week 1 starter, and it blew up in their face. And it also prevented Jackson Dart from getting earlier, more meaningful reps to start the season, as opposed to when we saw him when they eventually benched Russell Wilson after a handful of games. I have no idea what the Jets are doing. I have absolutely no idea what the Jets are thinking, nor am I even going to try to figure out what they're thinking. You're bringing in a quarterback, and if you want to sit there and tell me the Raiders' offensive line was bad last season, okay, fine, I'll give you that, right? And you want to sit there and say, well, now Geno's got a chip on his shoulder. I don't buy that for a second. I think he stinks. I really do. I'm not talking about a 25-year-old Geno Smith when he lost his starting job and he got in the fight, right, in 2015 to dispute with the teammate. He had the fractured jaw and he bounced around. And 11 years later, here we go. Full circle. No. I think it's a disaster of a move. And I think I believe this move for Geno Smith pretty much sealed Aaron Glenn's fate. And we're 6 months away from the season. 6-7 months away from the NFL season. Makes absolutely no sense. This quarterback was horrible. He was horrible. Yeah, the offensive line didn't do a good job. He was sacked 56 times. His decision-making was poor. They didn't run the football. You can argue about Chip Kelly's offensive scheme. But you mean to tell me the Jets couldn't have gone in a different direction? Seriously. I mean, if you're a Jet fan, you got to be beside yourself. It's like, I've seen this. I've seen this play before. I've seen this movie. I know this song. I know how it ends. Does anyone think it's going to be different? You got a bridge quarterback that right now is a backup at best journeyman quarterback. He's not the same guy a couple years ago that turned it around with Seattle. He's not. He really isn't. I mean, he's regressed. He goes from 4,300 yards to 3,000 yards. He was bad. He was bad. Now, did you not want to, go out and bring in a Kyler Murray? Did you not want to try to trade for a Mac Jones? Did you not want to try to bring in another bridge quarterback for a year or two? And it was a bag of balls, don't get me wrong. It really was. But this move to me tells me, I mean, look, they're going to stink. We already knew they were going to be a bad football team. They're really going to be bad. A real bad football team. And if I'm the Jets offensively, I'm looking around and Breece Hall is probably like, oh, I'm going to get about 500 carries. Their defense going into last season overrated and overhyped. You're hoping they make a couple plays here and there. Now, I don't know if that was the worst decision over the last 24, 48 hours because I give you the Indianapolis Colts. And Daniel Jones is basically a Hall of Fame quarterback when it comes to contracts. The Colts are re-signing Daniel Jones 2 years, $88 million. Tell me, in what world do we live in where Daniel Jones is a 45, almost $50 million a year quarterback? He's getting $50 million fully guaranteed, $60 million in guaranteed for injury. So, I mean, we already know what's going to happen. And look, good for Daniel Jones. Everything's got to be perfect around Daniel Jones. Offensive line, the ground game. We saw it early on when the Colts raced off to that really nice start to the season. Remember, they started 3-0. They lost to the Rams, and they ripped off 4 straight. They were 7-1. They were 8-2. And then everything kind of went down to you know what, and they didn't win a game. And we came on the air and said they're not going to win a game the rest of the season. And they started 8-2, and they finished 8-9 and missed the playoffs. I mean, it tells you this is what happens the NFL free agent period. We overvaluate, right? We pay, and then all of a sudden the market, if you will, the monies, it kind of starts to come down a little bit, and almost it doesn't teeter as much, right? It doesn't teeter as much. It almost comes back down to reality. But again, the Jets moving for Geno Smith and the Colts signing Jones, Baltimore getting cold feet. I mean, it's utter madness. The Giants making moves left and right. And everyone's kind of skittish what Harbaugh's doing, which, again, it's like, let it play out. And then you get the news that comes down maybe about 5 or 10 minutes ago. I think Tisch is trying to maneuver his shares, his equity, right, his stake in the Giants to his kids. So, like I said, you've got a boatload of stuff going on. We got a lot of comments on Bam last night. I'll get into them. Like I said, it was a disgrace. I don't know how in the world you can actually sit there and appreciate what the hell you saw last night in the NBA. And we got a lot of NFL movement. Plus, quietly, Eagles are losing players left and right, left and right. We'll get your thoughts on that. 19 past 2 o'clock hour, cranking it up on a Wednesday edition of On Q. Get social with me at Rich Q on Q, X and IG. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Play it against sports, 2 locations. Quick timeout. We'll come back in about 60. We're also on the AUDACY app, SR 1029 FM The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network. Back on the other side, NFL, NBA, whatever you guys think on a Wednesday. All right, welcome back, everyone, to a Wednesday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Let's pop out some of the comments. Jovan chimes in. At least our Jets have a better defense in 2026. Perhaps, perhaps. You know, their offense is going to struggle mightily. I think we all know that. I just don't understand the line of thinking here if I'm the Jets. I really don't. You already know what you're going to get. And you already know if you are Aaron Glenn, don't you think you wanted to at least you bring in a quarterback that you believe gives you an opportunity to win some football games, right? So this is from the Giants. They requested approval from the NFL's Finance Committee for ownership transaction involving Steve Tisch, Jonathan Tisch, Laura Tisch, who plan to transfer the remaining stakes in the trust for their children. So, pardon me, this is with Tisch's name coming up in the Epstein files, which I told you the NFL definitely had to step in. They have yet to do that. Hoop six times in Q. 100% agree with you. The last 3 minutes of that, it was not even basketball. It was a disgrace. It was a disgrace. I've seen bad basketball. I've called games in a lot of different leagues in the States and overseas. You know what that was? That was basically glorified scrimmage at the local Y on a Saturday friggin' afternoon and guys trying to work off the beer. That's all that was, working off their hangover. It's like Matador late defense. We're going to sit here and celebrate that nonsense? Absolutely not. Absolutely. And by the way, you know, this is not an indictment. I'm not picking on Bam. I'm not. I'm just picking on the whole scenario, the whole debacle, everything that we saw last night. That's a fraud 83 points. That was pathetic. It was pathetic. There was no defense at all. We already know the NBA has zero defense. I mean, I see people trying to defend this. Oh, you know, how many points did you score in an NBA? Guess what? I could have scored probably 50 last night too if Washington's going to play me like that. And chucking up 23 times from beyond the arc, going to the line 40-something odd time. And we're going to celebrate that? You know, I remember McHale broke the Celtics record for most points in a game, and then Larry Bird basically told him, you better keep scoring because I'm about to break the record. And then a couple nights later, Larry Bird broke the record. But they were playing defense. They were playing defense on these guys. You know, you've seen guys score, right? McHale scored 56, and then Bird scores 60 against the Hawks. They couldn't defend him. And by the way, Bird shot 22 of 36 from the floor, 15 of 16 from the charity stripe. Think about that for a moment. Think about that. Larry Bird scores 60, a clean 60 with defense, okay? And he only shot it 36 times from the field, 16 times from the charity stripe. How many times did Bam get to the line? It's beyond staggering. It was a joke. It was a disgrace. It was an embarrassment. Like, if I'm the NBA, I'm ashamed. I can't celebrate that. He went to the line 43 times. Let's keep fouling Washington Wizards players. Oh, let's just have rinky-dink calls. Here we go. Let's keep extending the game to get him 12, 13, 14 more meaningful points, extra possessions. Come on, man. Embarrassing. You're going to tell me that let's celebrate it? You can't. You can't. You can't celebrate what you saw last night in the NBA and think that was good for the NBA. You can't. You just can't. You can't sit here in full transparency, and if you're really being honest, sit there and say that was good for the NBA. Good for the NBA. That's why I love the NBA. That was come on, man. What other friggin' pro league acts like this? Miami was fouling the Wizards to preserve the clock up 20 so they can basically pad the stats of this player. Can you imagine a team doing this in the NFL? Can you let's just score touchdowns, get the ball back. I don't understand again how we can sit there and celebrate this. 43 friggin' free throws, 7 of 22 from beyond the arc against a piss poor team. Oh, by the way, you shot it 43 times. And I'm going to sit there and put you in the likes of a Wilt of a Kobe. Come on, stop. Look, 83 points, impressive, right? But where was your respect for the game? It was stat padding last night. That's all that was. Stat padding. Missing free throws so you can foul Wizards players and get the ball back. Come on. Come on. What are we doing? And then I got to listen to the commissioner sit there and say how the game has evolved and the game is great and the game is entertaining. No, no, no. When Kobe scored 81, that was a 122-104 game, okay, against Toronto. He scored 55 in the second half. He was 28 of 46 from the floor. And they were actually trying to D him up. It's not like missed free throws and fouls on purpose. I mean, it's just, that was bad last night. That was a very bad look for the NBA. But they're going to try to sell you on the fact that that's good for the NBA. It's a fraud 83 points. Fraud 83 points. All right, 2:30, quick timeout. Come back on the other side. We'll get to some more comments as well. Keep it locked in. Wednesday edition of On Cue. All right, 2:30. Let's break down some more of these comments. Heat 6 chimes in. Q. I actually had no problem with it. I was celebrating it. Hey, come on, man. Just stop. Wizards should have played better defense. If you allow someone to get to the basket at will when you're triple teaming him, they then do better. Well, it was a disgrace on both ends. It was. But the fact that Miami was fouling players so they can stop the clock and extend plays and extend possessions and extend the game, that was a bad look. Like, you can't have that in an NBA game, and you can't tell me to take the product serious. You just you can't, you're up 30 and you're fouling guys. Come on. We're going to celebrate that? That's piss poor. That's almost laughable. Like, that, if I'm calling that game, that makes me feel uncomfortable. So I can let you get some more free throws? And then we're going to sit there and we're going to celebrate it? Mass PR spin. Can't do it. I just can't. I can't. I'm sorry. No disrespect to Bam, but that was a disgrace. I'm not celebrating that pad stacking. That's a fraud 83 points. It's a fraud 83 points. That's all it is. Put my name up there with Kobe and Will. Get the hell out of here. Stop. And again, nice guy, good player, but just stop. Stop. And this is not even about, you know, if I'm not going to be one of these, Wilt or Kobe fanboys. Kobe was a great player, and I haven't even brought up, you beat Kobe. No, I'm saying as a whole. I don't care if it was, Jordan that scored the 81. Magic scored the 81. Barkley scored the 81. Malone's, I would say the same thing. It's not about a Kobe thing. It's not. I mean, but again, it's not that he beat Kobe. I'm not even really kind of like looking at it like that because, Wilt scored 100. That's coup de grace. But I can't sit here and I don't want to hear any more about the Miami Heat culture. I just, I don't. I don't want to hear about it. Spolstra, classy guy. Come on, man. That was Bush League. That was Bush League, what you saw last night. It was. That's not pro basketball. That's glorified YMCA rec ball. That's what that was. That was rec ball. Again, Matador defense. Matador defense. Let's foul to extend the game so I can get you more possessions. And I got news for you. No one's going to remember this game. They're not. I guarantee you, when they sit there and say, Wilt and Kobe, and it's an afterthought. It's going to be an afterthought. Sal chimes in. Q, I'm so pissed off with the Ravens backing out. I don't even know if it's cold feet. What the hell are they doing? Sal's a big Ravens fan. Cold feet. What do you want me to say? This is something the Ravens have done. The Ravens, listen, you are an NFL franchise, okay? And you are allowed to have reservations. You're allowed to have reservations, okay? And they just felt, maybe this is not the move that we want to make. But I think everyone knew that Crosby was injured, coming off surgery, right? And healing up. But I think what's happening now, agents are going to look at, do we really want to deal with the Baltimore Ravens? Because they're just kind of, they might pull out. So they nixed it over the fad physical. But this is not I don't know. I don't think I think people are looking at this as stunning, right? And the Raiders coming out and saying that the Ravens backed out. And the Raiders basically have had no comment. I don't even know if the Ravens have commented. But teams that were interested in trading for Crosby obviously had conversations with his surgeon and the medical staff and the Raiders medical staff, the Ravens doctors, right? You have independent ones. They looked at the MRI. And I guess everyone was in lockstep and barrel that, okay, short-term outlook was positive. But then you got to deal with the long term. And maybe the Baltimore Ravens decided very high risk, potential low reward. And they decided it wasn't for them. Now, again, as I mentioned, now you got a player in Crosby that's in limbo because we know his relationship with the Raiders is fractured. We know that. So now what? Now, I don't believe after this, there are going to be teams right away that are going to be that they're going to engage. Now, the only thing, maybe if you're a team that was interested, then you lowball and you say, well, look, we're a little worried, but we'll take a risk, but we're not giving you 2 first-round draft picks. Now, the Ravens had their first 2-round draft picks back, and the Raiders are stuck with a little more cap hell because they were going to try to release some money. So it's kind of a lose-lose, right? It is. It's a lose-lose because he's a good player. He's getting a little older, and you're seeing right now, obviously that's a tough injury. That would be troublesome. But I would be very hesitant too, but I'm not giving up now. Knowing this, I'm not giving up 2 first-round draft picks. I'm not doing it. So if anything, maybe I can use that for a little leverage. I can use it for a little leverage. Matty chimes in. I have no idea what the hell this franchise is doing. What a laughing stock. So he's a Jet fan, and I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you either, my friend. I really don't. Because I just don't think Geno Smith at this point of his career is mature enough to lead the Jets, humbled enough to lead. I just don't. I really don't. And again, you got to look at the quarterback market, right? We know that the Raiders are drafting Fernando Mendoza with the number 1 pick. They were going to release Smith, right, starting New Year. We already walked through all that. So again, now instead, do you jump, all these spots in the draft, right? You're talking about the cap hit as well. So the Jets have been active in free agency, but there's not a quarterback in the draft that they like. But I just don't know if this move, the Jets thinking is, yeah, we can move. I don't believe they can win right now. I mean, I'll give Geno Smith credit. He was able to turn his career around in Seattle. Okay. But now I'm looking at it. Well, if you've got a head coach in Aaron Glenn that has clearly looked like he's overwhelmed and he doesn't understand the day-to-days of being an NFL head coach. He's just in over his head. Okay? He's just in over his head. Then to me, I would not have gone this direction. I just wouldn't have. And I'm not going to tell you draft a quarterback because we don't like the quarterbacks coming out. Would I have made a trade? Would I bring, well, they did technically, but would I have, looked at Kyler? Would I have looked at Daniel Jones? Would I have looked at, Carr if he comes back out of retirement? Would I looked at Cousins? Would I have looked at a, Mac Jones? And I understand it's very thin out there, but man, I've seen this before. It's like you couldn't have done better if you're the Jets. Like you could not have done better if you were the Jets. And it's very hard to take this franchise serious. And you're talking about a franchise that I don't know, their fan base, you got to give them something to hang their hat on. You got to give them something to hang their hat on. And this is not the move to hang their hat in. It's just not. Now, again, if you're thinking, okay, we got a guy that's under center, understands how to run an NFL offense, maybe we stick him behind a better offensive line, we can run it a little more. Would I have gone after Mac Jones over Geno Smith? I would have. And I think you're in trouble too if you start to have the conversation, you're going to bring in another veteran quarterback to push Geno Smith because the Giants did it with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And the Jets have been busy. They traded for Fitzpatrick from Miami. Okay. You added a couple solid players to defense, like Joe Vaughn mentioned, right? Demario Davis, good player. Okay. So the question is, why'd you do it? Why'd you trade for Smith when you sit there and say it's not the best move? Okay. First and foremost, look, the counter argument is the Jets were not going to find a franchise quarterback in the offseason. Okay, fine. So they're limited in some options. The draft is not appealing unless you're the Raiders and number 1 with Mendoza. I think because Geno played so poorly and he was going to get released, he's affordable, right? Because you got the late round pick swap, you restructure his deal. Maybe they're thinking it's a low risk, high reward. But to me, I look at Mac Jones and I thought that would have been the best fit. I mean, Jones looked better than Smith last season. Now, he might have been too expensive because I know multiple teams have asked about Mac Jones. So what are you willing to give up? So that likely basically means the 49ers are asking well over a 3rd round pick to give up for Mac Jones. So I understand why the Jets did it, but I don't understand why the Jets did it. And I can't look at it and say it was a smart move. Jets were better off trying to trade for Anthony Richardson. Could have been better to sell to the fan base. Yeah, young quarterback. Resurrect his career. I didn't even think about that. You're right. You're absolutely right. Because look, I mean, Anthony Richardson's time I mean, think about this. They just signed Daniel Jones. So there's got to be multiple teams out there in play for Anthony Richardson. I did not think about that. And by the way, I think that Daniel Jones, to give him that money over 2 years, they are banking. They are banking on Daniel Jones being healthy. And that is an absolutely dicey proposition, man. You are playing with fire. If you are banking on a quarterback who has shown you throughout the course of his career, he cannot stay healthy. And I'll tell you this, they don't need three quarterbacks on that roster. They don't. So think about this. If Jones is not going to be able to play week 1. He's just not. He tore his Achilles in week 14. He's not going to be ready till October, mid-October. So now, if you're talking about Richardson, and we already know seeking a trade, if he can't find one, probably going to release him. Then you got Riley Leonard. So if bringing back Daniel Jones, then the Colts definitely now have to get rid of Anthony Richardson, because he's not a bad kid. It's just clear that they don't want him around anymore. And you don't want to be someplace you're not wanted, especially if you're a young quarterback. They don't want you in that quarterbacking room. And I think maybe he can find a way to work out a trade. But you're right. To your point, I think it could have been a good opportunity for the Jets. I mean, think about the other aspect of this is Riley Leonard's probably going to be QB2. He's going to have an opportunity to play early. And he was pretty good week 18 against that Texans defense. So ultimately, I don't know what some of these franchises, they don't pay me to think for these franchises, but I don't know what they're thinking. I can only make the case for and against. Franchise chimes in, Ravens fan. Q, did you see that they restructured Lamar's deal? Yeah, they're going to rework it because they need cap space. They have to. Kevin again chimes in, Tom's River. Q, see all the former Ravens now going to the Giants. That speaks to Harbaugh. I love what the Giants have done special teams wise. But for the Ravens, let me get back to that. They're going to restructure that contract. They're going to create about $40 million in salary cap. And, where's the drop off? Hendrickson, Crosby. I think there was a lot of buzz when they thought they had Crosby. Is Hendrickson this impact player that Crosby is? Does that put him over the hump defensively? Do I still look at them as a Super Bowl contender coming out of the AFC? Now, they're going to figure out a way. They're going to work on that contract extension with Jackson. You have to. He's got 2 years left on that deal. He's a 2-time NFL MVP. Without an extension, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent after 2027. But they needed the cap room because of the money that they're paying Hendrickson. 4 years, $112. So you got to get under the cap. Now, I just, they're losing players, man. And the Giants are signing them. Giants are signing fullbacks, going, defensive side, adding some weapons, special teams, which is the Harbaugh's pedigree. You got arguably one of the best kickers in the league, got arguably the best punter, all pro. You're going with the fullback route. I like what the Giants are doing. I really do. Now, I got to see it on a Sunday in September. But if you're a Ravens fan, and by the way, I didn't even get into Tom Summers' point, just again, crying and whining about his Philadelphia Eagles, which I'll get into in a moment. But man, what happens is when you've got players and you've got a young roster and you're heavy on the defensive side of the ball and you've got impact players, they're all going to want to get signed. And I'll get to Tom in a second. They're going to want to get signed. So you have to figure out, who am I going to sign? Who am I going to stick with? Who am I going to let walk? And you got to live with that decision. You have to. You have to live with that decision. It's painful sometimes because you never want to see talent walk. But that's life in the NFL. That is life in the NFL. Tom and Summers' point, Q, I can't believe how quiet this team has been. Well, it depends on, again, your definition of quiet. Because I know in years past, you want to see the Eagles make a splash. Jordan Davis, 3-year contract extension, $78 million, that's a splash. And you just had to know they were not going to be able to sign all these players. The market corrects itself. It corrects itself. So when you talk about free agency, you talk about players that are lost, okay? It's just, you're going to have to just deal with it. And good teams figure out a way to overcome that. They really do. They really do. So the everyone's talking about offensive side of the football. Okay. Think about what the Eagles have done over the last 15 plus years with the tight end position. When you go from like the Lewises to the Ertz, right? I'm sorry, the Lewises to the Selicks to the Ertz to the Goddards to Calcaterra. So if you're thinking about this for a little bit, they kind of rotate these guys in, right? They try to get value back. It's one of the reasons they resigned Calcaterra. Bring him back, pass catching tight end, Goddard's backup, right? So you also add the other signing, and the big question really is, whether Goddard is going to resign and what does that look like? But they always figure out a way. The Eagles always, I'll say this about the Philadelphia Eagles, they've done this even with the Andy Reid Eagles and that era, okay? They always know when to let a player walk, whether it was the Lito Shepherds, the Sheldon Browns, just the list goes on. They just always know when it's time to just let a player walk. And I don't know how many teams are going to be looking for tight end number one this offseason, right? Which could potentially work out well for the Eagles, because now you're talking about a player that doesn't have a lot of options. I mean, think about all these tight ends we mentioned. Kelsey's coming back on a 1-year deal. Kolar's coming back with the Chargers, right? 3-year deal. Troutman's going to be back with Denver. Otten is signed with Tampa Bay. Knox signed with Buffalo. The Giants signed Isaiah Likely from the Ravens. Schultz with the Texans. Bellinger, 3 years, $24 million, which, wow, are you kidding me, with the Titans? So there might not be a market for a Dallas Goedert. Ingram signed, Andrews signed, Johnson signed. The 49ers got Kittle. Vikings have Hawkinson, right? The Cardinals have McBride. Cowboys have Ferguson. The Bears have Cole Kmet. The Lions have Laporta. The list goes on and on. So you got 17, 18 teams there. Theoretically, they're not in the market for a big-time tight end like Goddard. So there's no guarantee he finds his way back to Philly. But point being is sometimes you got to let guys walk, and they got to test the waters, and they realize I'm not going to get the value that I thought that I want. But the Eagles have always figured out a way over the last 15, 20 plus years. They know when to let players walk. It rarely comes back and bites them in the ass. Seriously. I mean, I'll give them that much. It just rarely comes back, right? I like the Wooten signing upside and upgrade over Adoree Jackson. Yeah, you had to get rid of Adoree Jackson. Injury-prone, concussion, right? Not to mention tight end draft class is pretty good. Doesn't help Goddard. Correct. And it's a numbers game, right? It's a numbers game. Let me get to some more of these comments. Ravens fans are just beyond salty today. I mean, I think they just, listen, I think they got cold feet. I really do. But I also believe that you are now setting up that ugly precedent where teams might be reluctant to deal with the Baltimore Ravens. They might be reluctant. You are allowed to renege on the deal. You're allowed. But I think some teams are going to be a little reluctant. Hoop 6 chimes in Q. Thank you for saying that it was a fraud 83 points. It was stat padding at best. Yes. The other thing that really, I mean, man, no one's saying don't enjoy it, but just but you got to be, objective a little bit. You have to. Like you had Miami Heat players missing free throws so they can foul the Wizards players and get the ball back. Does anyone not see what's wrong with that? This is not the old man screaming at the porch, on the porch. But that was a freak show, a clown show, a shit show. I'm going to foul the Wizards to preserve the clock up 20 something odd points so this guy can stat pad? Come on. That's Bush League, man. And if you don't think it is, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You got your head up your culo. It's Bush League. 43 shots, 43 free throws. Yeah, 83 points, impressive, but I've seen guys drop 50 at the rec. The Heat are fouling up 25. That's a disgrace. And the last three was like the YMCA. It was. You get the YMCA crossover and you need the guy to finish. These guys were working off like 6 Miller Lights, 6 Coors Lights that they had the night before. It was a joke. Come on. Triple teaming them, right? Full court. Trying to prevent him from scoring 83. Taking over 40 free throws, 40 shots. Shit show. I don't even know how you guys can argue with me on that. Embarrassing. I'm offended as a Hoops fan. Absolutely offended. Yeah, I understand it's a Woosah Wednesday. Offended. Take that somewhere else. Take that nonsense somewhere else. All right, fast approach in 3. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. Hoop 6 says free throw merchant Q. Yeah. I mean, we can call him that, right? All right. So you got Daniel Jones, Colts 2-year deal. Again, the Ravens doing the pivot, going to Hendrickson. Tish is asked to move the Giants stake to trust. The Commanders making a couple moves. Lamar's deal reworked. Jennings to be released as well. So there's just, it's very, like I said, the market will correct itself over the next couple of days, and players are going to make a lot of money. And I'm curious, Denver, New England, the Rams, Seattle, these are your 4 teams that made it to conference championships. See, I think too, right now, if I were to handicap the NFC, and I understand we are in early March, I have more confidence. Right now, I would give the edge to the Rams over Seattle. As much as I'm a Darnold fan and Seattle won the Super Bowl, I'm trusting Stafford over Darnold. Like, to me, I think the Rams should be the odds-on favorite, and certainly coming out of the NFC. AFC, I don't know yet. I really don't know. Pat's got Kevin Bard on a 1-year deal worth $9 million. Well, I saw, didn't they also, they saved about 3.8 because they released our linebacker Jennings, who I don't, I don't think is a very, I don't think he's a bad player. I do like Salima says Q, why's Washington's been so quiet? I'll get to that comment in a second. Greg says, Q, are you loving the moves by the Giants? I do. And also, too, they address, I think a sneaky move was Newsom because they had to address needs of cornerback. I hate the fact that they lost Cordell Flott. I really do. But all these players now, Bellinger, Flott, Robinson, all signing with Tennessee and Dayball. But I do like the move for Newsom. It's a 1-year deal, $10 million, a little more depth. And the fact that they address special teams, that's what the Giants had to do. They had one of the worst special teams units when it came to punting. It was a revolving door when you're talking about the field goal kickers. That was one of the reasons I wanted Joe Shane gone. The inability to have depth at the kicker spot. I mean, how many games did they go in where, you're dealing with a banged up kicker? But I like what they're doing right now. I do. They're trying to add on both sides of the ball. And listen, Sanders is a decent kicker. He's a solid kicker. Okay. And the punter, love it. Stout, he's an all pro. He's an all pro. They re signed Gunner, which I think is smart. They had to address an area of weakness, and that was special teams. I mean, how many games did they go into where, you got the punter kicking the field goal, you got field goals getting blocked, you had a horrible return unit, you got nothing on punt returns, kickoff, nothing. So yeah, they're being active, and Harbaugh's bringing in his guys. Okay, that's what he's doing. Harbaugh's bringing in his guys that fit his mold. Money Mike, Giants are going to be very good next season. I'm not going to say very good. I'm not. I think the Giants, because of the move for Harbaugh, I think the Giants are plus maybe 2 more wins. And think about this too. To go from 4-7 or 4-8 is a nice improvement. If you look at their games last year, they should have beat the Dallas Cowboys in week 2. The rookies played like rookies on the road against a winless Saint team. That was a winnable game, but they had the fumble return. They had a bad pick by Dart. They choked against the Denver Broncos. They got outclassed in the second half against the 49ers. They should have beat the Bears. They should have beat the Lions. I mean, that's 3 more wins right there. But as Parcells said, you are what your record is. So if the Giants go from 4-8, I would be happy with that. And you see the progressions of Jackson Dart. But I would caution Giant fans to not get sucked in to off-season hype, because off-season doesn't win you Super Bowls. Yes, it gets you in position, but I still got to see these guys play on a Sunday. I do. And the offensive line has still been an issue. They're addressing the cornerback position. I believe they still need another edge rusher. They got to get to the quarterback more. And their offense has to have a little more consistency. It really does. And you're also banking on a couple players that are coming off some massive injuries, right? Scadaboo and Neighbors. You get them healthy, then I think offensively with Jackson Dart, second year, I think they're going to be good, right? I think they're going to be much more competitive. See, they're going to have to figure out a way. This is the mark of a good team in the NFL, is a team that wins games within their division. That's a good team. If you can win your divisional games, if you're going 4-2 and you're competitive in your division, something the Giants have not been in probably 15 plus years. I mean, give me a season where the Giants are sweeping the Eagles and sweeping the Dallas Cowboys, not Washington, or splitting against the Commanders. But you start to go 4-2, 5-1 in a division, then we can talk. Ravens didn't use likely. He will be a star with the Giants. That's, I'm hearing a lot that this kid can play. And remember too, they also have Theo Johnson, who's a good tight end. I just need a little more consistency from Theo Johnson. Chris chimes in. Q, I don't know why you're killing it. 83 points is 83 points. I feel like you're salty because you're a Kobe guy. Has nothing to do with me being a Kobe guy. And I didn't even mention Kobe. I didn't even mention Kobe. I'm just not recognizing the 83 points. I don't know how you could. I stated my case. How anyone can sit there and tell me that that is a legit 83 points. I mean, what the hell color are the clouds in your world? That's not a legit, that's not a clean 83. And again, for everyone that sits there and tells me, oh, you in the NBA, you in basketball, blah, 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 the holier and then now, you're at the mountaintop, you're sitting there, on the porch like that. Hey, man, all I'm telling you is this. I know basketball, okay? And I've been fortunate enough to call a lot of games for a lot of leagues, not only in the States, but overseas. What I saw last night, the last 3 minutes, that was freaking glorified rec ball. That's all that was. That's all that was. And it's a disgrace to the game. I mentioned Kobe's 81, and I mentioned what Bird did after McHale broke the Celtics record, and Bird broke it 9 days later, and he only got to the line like 18 times. You're talking about a player last night that got to the line 43 times. Come on. Come on. Unbelievable. Matt chimes in, Jets 16Q. I don't know why you're giving the Jets such a hard time. I know you're a Giants fan, but come on, man. Lighten up a little bit. On what? On the move for Geno Smith? Like, again, what are we doing here? See, Jet fans think I am anti Aaron Glenn. I just don't think Aaron Glenn is a good head coach. You know what Aaron Glenn did yesterday? Aaron Glenn basically signed his death warrant. He's done. He's a dead man walking. This move for Geno Smith's not going to save Aaron Glenn's job. Like, prove me wrong. The only way Aaron Glenn saves his job with the Jets is if Geno Smith turns to an all-pro, all-world quarterback and they win at least 10 games. Anything less than that, Aaron Glenn is done. He is done in New York. And again, it's one of the reasons, just like I was screaming last season to get rid of Harbaugh and Joe Shane for the Giants and clean house, it's one of the reasons it just should have gotten rid of him. But they weren't going to do that. They weren't going to fire a head coach after one season, especially a guy that played for the franchise, played at a decent level, came back. Here we go. Great story. And he was a hot commodity as a coordinator with the Lions, because then you got egg all over your face. But you mean to tell me, watching this team the last month of the season, if you are an honest, fully transparent, and realistic Jet fan, okay? You're going to tell me watching them give up 34 to Miami and losing by 24. You're going to tell me watching them give up almost 50 to Jacksonville and not even be competitive. You're going to tell me giving up 30 to the Saints, 42 to New England, and then 38 or 35 to Buffalo and losing 5 games to close out the season, 7 of 8, that you were going to sit there and give him your stamp of approval and have him return? Are you friggin' nuts? Oh my God, Jet fans, stop. You guys are embarrassing yourself today. I thought you guys would be a little more fired up, a little more upset, a little more pissed off. You're going to give me the wait and see approach? Come on. I can't with you guys. I can't. I really can't. Listen, it's the NFL, okay? You need a quarterback to be successful in this league. And if you don't have a quarterback, you better have a hell of a defense or a ground game. The last time I checked, Jets don't have either. They're in trouble. They are in trouble. You can sit there and tell me they're going to win a couple games and, the offensive line is going to be better and hopefully they can keep Geno Smith upright. Folks, I'm not seeing it. You're going to tell me Mac Jones not an upgrade? Hell, I would have taken Kyler Murray. Younger, move around a little bit. No, man, I'm telling you right now, it's bag of balls. Bag of balls that they gave up for Geno Smith. It's a mess. It's a mess. Q, did you see that Sam and Meek said that Adebayo should have been pulled from the game out of respect for Kobe instead of scoring 83? I mean, what if it was a clean 83 though? Like a really, oh my God, this guy is just in the zone, even though we know it wasn't. I'm not going to start to get into that because last night it was his night. Whether you agree or not how he went about getting the points, which I think we can all get on the same page and agree it was Bush League, but that's his night. That's his moment of light. That's his lot in life, right? And the thing is, if you always listen to Kobe always talked about records being broken. Like Kobe would sit there and say, you don't know a player anything. That's like that soft approach, right? And again, this is not about Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, great player, all-time great. It's not about Kobe. It's about how he got last night, how Bam got those 83. That's the problem I have. That's the problem. You're fouling guys. You're missing free throws on purpose. That was like it was almost like punkish, childish. It has nothing to do with Kobe Bryant. Has nothing to do with 81. None of it. It's just you can't tell me last night was good for the league. It was good for the NBA. You can't tell me you're celebrating 83 points when everyone knows you don't even have to be a fan. You don't have to understand the sport. That what you saw last night was a disgrace. It was a disgrace. It was blatant. It was so obvious. We always talk about tanking. We talk about guys making business decisions in the NFL in November, not tackling, thinking about going out with their wives or their girlfriends or mistresses, going to the Caribbean. I mean, last night, and here's the other thing. Imagine, I don't know, let's just say in a goofy world, you start to add in the betting element. God knows all the props and everything that was flying around. I don't know. But I'm just saying, everything that went down last night is what's wrong with the NBA and sports in general. You're jacking up threes while you're triple team. That's a disgraceful look. Just you can't tell me any different. You can't. Because I'm not going to agree with you. Like, it's not, I don't even believe it's up for debate. I mean, come on. It's an absolute joke what you saw last night. And by the way, there was a lot of it last night. There was a lot of it in the NBA. Alex Alberto. Yes. So I touched on it a little bit when I came on the air. That's another disgrace. And by the way, so if you've been following the World Baseball Classic, okay, and you talk about lack of awareness. First of all, there's a reason that other countries see the problem I have with what we're seeing right now in baseball is that other teams take or other countries much more pride in what's going on with the WBC. It's just much more pride. It is, whether it's Venezuela, Dominican, right? Canada, Italy, Mexico, Cuba. It's just more pride with the players. It's more meaningful. It's not with the US. I'm sorry, it's just not. And they think they're going to try to grab a younger or a newer or a obscure fan base to follow USA. They're not. And when you got players coming out like Harper saying, well, the Olympics are more meaningful, that's never a good thing. But now to the commenter, right, to Alex Alberto, again, to his comment about Mark DeRosa's lack of awareness is pretty much it's just the arrogance of the U.S. team, not understanding where they were at. I mean, you can't. You should, if you are Mark DeRosa, you should never, ever, ever be a manager. That's what happens when I get my I got my opened apps up there. I apologize for that. But anyway, you should never, never, ever be allowed. I mean, he was asleep. He admitted that you're talking about the team's final pool game against Italy, not knowing that Team USA had not yet clinched a spot in the knockout round. Now, how do you not know that? Good player, good analyst, not manager. No, seriously, should have been fired right there. He's a good dude. Like the guy. Good studio analyst. But come on. What are we doing here? You're falling asleep and you say you misspoke? BS. You had no idea what the hell was doing. You thought USA had already punched a ticket to the next round? And by the way, MLB, talk about pathetic what we saw last night in the NBA and gutless. How about MLB? How about MLB posting it up and then taking it down? Just come on, man. Fire him. You thought USA already clinched a spot in the quarterfinal? That is embarrassing. I misspoke. You misread the calculations. Bullshit. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't misread anything. You didn't misconstrue. You didn't misunderstand. Stop. That's a bad look, too. So you had a lot of bad looks. And what people don't understand, US players don't care about the WBC. They don't. Yeah, he's clueless. He's absolutely clueless. And it shows their arrogance too, Alex. It shows their arrogance. It shows their arrogance. They just don't care. But Cuba, Italy, Mexico, DR, Venezuela, they care. Teams in the Caribbean, they care. Latin and Central America, they care about baseball. They do. That's why when you get those crowd shots, they're filled with them, those representing their country. Baseball is an afterthought in this country. And the fact that MLB tried to hide the blunder is embarrassing. I mean, come on. That's beyond embarrassing. It's like a cover-up of cover-ups. Mark DeRosa has to know better. I mean, that's beyond embarrassing, not only for the sport of baseball, for US, for DeRosa, MLB, and MLB Network, by the way, because he works as an analyst during the MLB season. Let's try to take down the video. And you're doing it on MLB Network. And you're going to sit there and say that you already clinched a spot in the quarter. And you're going to give, bench players, a start. You misspoke. No, you just don't care. That's arrogance. You don't care. That's all that was. And for MLB, the network, basically to take down the video, and it wasn't restored until after Major League Baseball was asked about its removal, and you got a trim video up there posted on a Facebook page that included the blunder as well, is a joke. They just don't care. Those other countries, they care. They care. Their fans are fanatical. Their players have more pride when it comes to representing their country. I'm sorry, than these players do with the U.S. It's an afterthought to them. When you get players turning around saying, the Olympics mean more. It's just a major problem with baseball. It's a major problem with baseball. That's why the ratings are what they are. And, you start to get into it in September, October for the pennant races. But yes, to your comment, he's got to know better. He's got to know better. That is just an absolutely bad look. All right, going to start wrapping it up on a Wednesday. Appreciate you guys chiming in as always. We'll be up on demand on SR 1029 FM The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network, AUDACY app. Don't forget, we'll be back in the saddle Manana and Friday as well. I'm not sure if we're traveling yet Friday for hoops, but definitely tomorrow. Subscribe to the channel. You will be able to get the notifications when we fire off. So we touched a lot on the NFL today, the Jets, the Colts, the Ravens. You got the NBA Bam's nonsense last night with the fraud 83. We'll kind of carry over the conversation tomorrow. WBC, Jonathan Marshall, Lloyd Vance on a Thursday show, John Bueller from Fansided on Friday. So we got a lot to dive into. Don't forget, keep me locked in. If you are new to the show, the best you can do for me, which I would be grateful for, is subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share with your friends. We're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Play it against sports, 2 locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel. You guys have a wonderful Sports Wednesday. Back in the saddle manana. Probably fire off around 2:30. Until then, have a good Sports Wednesday. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Thanks for joining us on a Wednesday edition of On Cue. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.